Beautiful look at downtown Knoxville, Tennessee on a chilly night in November. Great night for college basketball inside of Thompson Bowling Arena. Number 6 Tennessee, 4-1 on the season, getting set to tangle with Eastern Kentucky out of the OVC. Colonels are 3-3 with Mark Wise, Roy Philpott. Great to have you with us. Good crowd expected tonight as we take a look at Grant Williams, one of the best players in the country and the reigning SEC Player of the Year. Mark, he is off to a great start this campaign.
And yet Rick Barnes felt like his team got off track against Kansas, shooting too many threes and not enough free throws. They played, as he said, too emotional. So as a result, I would look for a lot of touches on the inside early, and why not when you have a Grant Williams, a power forward body with guard skills.
EKU's led by Nick Mayo. He's a senior. He's added about 40 pounds of good weight since last year. And tell you what, the numbers, they're impressive.
Playing in his 100th game and is 100 points away from tying the all-time scoring record at Eastern Kentucky.
Nick Mayo, 25 and 9 per contest. He was a focal point of the Tennessee shoot-around earlier this morning, with Rick Barnes both praising his work ethic and also telling his team, hey, you guys, you got to be aware of where Nick Mayo is tonight. Well, the Vols coming off their lone loss of the season, an overtime setback against Kansas, and the schedule does get more difficult as we get into December, as Tennessee will tangle with Gonzaga in Phoenix, and the Zags right now #1 in the land. Away we go from Thompson Bowling Arena, and EKU controls the opening tap. Vols picked second in the preseason SEC media poll. Around the horn it goes. 3-ball from the corner, off the mark by Anderson. And here comes Tennessee.
Unselfish play by Mayo. Really, he had a pretty good look. Both teams have opened up man-to-man. Expect Eastern Kentucky to do a lot of pressing. They want this to be an up-tempo affair.
Too strong off the glass. Alexander gets it back. 3 tries. Yves Pons making his first career start. Grabs the rebound. And 35 in white mark is impressive, especially physically.
What did A.W. Hamilton tell us today, the head coach at Eastern Kentucky? Concern number 1, the glass.
Pons an open look. Nothing to it from downtown, and UT's on the board.
Again, you see the unique skill set of Grant Williams in that possession. I talk about him having guard skills, the ability to beat you off at the bounce in the mid-range, but also has the ability to find teammates.
Open look for Mayo. Too strong. How about Pons' first career start? Nails his first shot attempt and his first 3-ball of this season. Now 1 of 5 from distance, as you see Pons. 35 in white tonight. Williams and Schofield preseason all SEC. Bone top of the key, off the mark.
See, Roy, that's a 3-point attempt without an inside touch.
And as a coach, you don't like that. Anderson likes that shot in traffic.
Not really known as a driver to the rim right away. Colonels like the pressure. 5 of Tennessee's first 7 shots against Kansas were from beyond the arc.
Another offensive rebound. Pons, right place, right time. And a turnover. Kay Weaver comes out of there with it.
I think this is double
and he gives
dribble.
it right back.
Yeah.
Rick Barnes, year number 4 here in Knoxville. What a career he has had. Stops at George Mason, Providence, Clemson, Texas. And this year, this team's got a legitimate chance, Coach, to be the #1 seed.
They're in the mix. They're in the mix for the big hunt. Good look at Pons in his first career start. Young man from France. Had to learn English.
In and out for Williams.
Took a class here last year to learn English, but what he wasn't prepared for, Rick Barnes' Hickory, North Carolina version of English.
Head coach for the Colonels, A.W. Hamilton, was at NC State last year. His first D1 coaching job began earlier this month. And he's got 3 wins on the ledger so far. A little work to do.
He's catching it.
KU back to work. Here's Mayo. Got caught in no man's land. Tay Weaver from distance. And the first lead of the night for Eastern Kentucky.
What a great step by Mayo, utilizing his footwork to get that pass off. That's almost, we talk about the Euro step in scoring. I thought he used it in passing. That's a good job of trapping right at the midcourt area. That's a no-no by Bone. Never want to get into the front court. Watch this Euro step by Mayo, and yet he gets rid of the pass. It's wonderful vision and skills by the big guy.
Nick Mayo making his 100th straight start, as you said, Mark. Poured in a career-high 40 in a road win at Chattanooga earlier this season. Lachlan Anderson, too strong, and a foul on the court will go against the Vols.
And if you're wondering about that shot by EKU, the Colonels shoot 30 three balls every game.
Come up hard, come up.
John Fulkerson picked up the personal. That's his first. 3-on-1 fast break. Schofield, a strong finish.
He'll advise pass on the out under.
It's fun to call games, and it's fun to watch teams where there's a lot of three-point shooting. I mean, that's just, it's always enjoyable to see, especially if they're making them. EKU's had some success, and they've also struggled in that department at times this year.
When you shoot that many, you're going to be inconsistent in how you score. You're going to go through some droughts, but you'll also score in bunches.
Jump ball, it'll stay with Tennessee.
Out under, lob is ill-advised. Grant Williams smells it out. Bounce pass to Schofield for the easy finish.
So from what you're saying as a coach, you don't necessarily like all the three-point attempts, but what I'm saying as a viewer, as a fan, oh, it could be enjoyable. Viewer as a fan, oh, it could be enjoyable.
Well, you have to commit to it.
Yeah.
And this is the system that A.W. Hamilton believes in. I like it. Give me offense. These coaches that say, well, we got to defend and rebound. No, you don't. You have to score.
Now you're talking my language. Stop and pop. Schofield, and it's all net. 4 points for Admiral Schofield. UT back in front, and here's a turnover.
I think, excuse me, Roy, I think in Schofield and Williams, Tennessee has the two best combination mid-range guys in the country. Their ability to knock down shots 15 feet and in that area, second to none.
Jordan Bowden checking in for the first time, replacing Yves Pons in his first career start. Rick Barnes wants to see more from 23 and white. Bowden is not off the kind of start Barnes expected. Grant Williams is, and that's another basket from one-lane distance.
You have no chance if you allow Williams to catch the ball with both feet in the paint.
Offensive foul, Lachlan Anderson picks up the personal. And UT off and running 4 minutes in. The Vols 4-1. The young season leading Eastern Kentucky 9-5 here in Knoxville. Downtown Knoxville bustling on this chilly November night. And the Vols in the midst of a 6-0 run with a 9-5 advantage over Eastern Kentucky with the Professor Mark Wise, Roy Philpott courtside. Grant Williams, preseason player of the year in the SEC, won the award last year. In your expert opinion, what makes him so unique?
You know, a lot of big guys, they like to score with feet in the paint. Grant Williams doesn't have to. Why? Because of the guard skill set that I talked about. He can catch the ball off the lane and be very comfortable with his ability to get to the rim. Watch again where Williams is a receiver. Both feet well outside the paint, and yet he's able to attract the foul, get to the rim for the and one. Doesn't mind at the free throw line as well. Such a unique skill set for a guy built like a Grant Williams. Mid-range post-up, really impressive.
With all of that in mind, does that make him more valuable in the minds of NBA scouts? Where does that come into play?
At some point in time, Roy, he has to step out and show that he can knock down the three. He's doing a little bit more of that this season.
5 of 9 from downtown so far this year for Grant Williams, who has a chance to become the first player since Corliss Williamson, those great Arkansas teams, to go back-to-back to win the SEC Player of the Year. Jordan Bowden off the mark, and here comes EKU. Jack West Hobbs out of control, but was fouled in the process.
Good to see Hobbs back out on the floor for Eastern.
He's only played in 2 games this year. Number 1 for the Colonels.
Yeah, he had 13 in that road win at Chattanooga and has not played since.
Back to the basket game for Mayo. The spin move well off the mark. And here comes Admiral Schofield.
Nice job by Fulkerson walling up defensively.
Open look, Lamonte Turner off the bench.
That's back-to-back possessions now. 3-point shots without an inside touch.
And Rick Barnes does not like that.
He wants this. He wants an inside-out approach. That is a much better 3-point shot in the Rick Barnes way.
Right. They are dominating on the offensive glass. Williams turns it over.
He wanted Turner to come closer to him in spacing. I thought we would have more tempo during the early going, the way Eastern likes to play.
A.W. Hamilton said nobody runs more, nobody works harder than our basketball team. They pride themselves on their speed, on their conditioning. Now almost 3 minutes since their last field goal.
Both of Broughton's misses at the arc have been a little long, and when that happens, that means you're a little too amped. Big game for A.W. Hamilton and Eastern Kentucky.
Losses already to Kansas State, Marshall, and Northern Iowa. Hamilton, a graduate of Marshall, played there. We had some fun with their team earlier today as well. They actually invited us to shoot their half-court jumpers at the end of their shoot-around. One of your trusted announcers decided to participate. The other one did not. Here's a steal. Jamaru Brown checking in, the freshman and the current OVC co-freshman of the week.
When Eastern Kentucky digs back down on the offensive possession, take it away, big guy. Here's what I like about this. Watch the way you check the wind.
I wasn't really sure if wind would play a factor. This is a huge arena. Watch this, watch this.
Can it be? Oh!
Coach Hamilton, we appreciate the invitation, and I'm sorry that I could not connect. That was the first, maybe the second of 3 or 4 attempts. Our director, Eric Swearingen, we appreciate the footage there. Nicely done, as you would expect. 1 of 2 at the line. And Tennessee with a 3-point lead. Six minutes in, Vol started 1 for their first 7, since then 3 for their last 4. Crisper with the passing on this possession, and Bone was fouled on the elbow.
Late whistle, but I thought it was the right call. Tennessee patient in their offensive set. Got Bone off of a curl screen.
Foul goes against Brown. That's his first, 3rd team foul against the Colonels. Talk to me a little bit, too, about games like this in non-conference play where Tennessee comes in. They're a heavy favorite, obviously. They're a top 10 program. Could have beaten Kansas their last time out, lost in overtime. As a coach, if you're Rick Barnes, what do you obviously want to win, but what else are you trying to accomplish this time of year? Because Barnes said it. This is one of our more difficult times of the season, given the distance in between some of our games, some of the travel, and some of the unfamiliarity, if you will, with some of our opponents.
Every coach in the country, Roy, wants to know how his team is going to deal with a tough loss. How you come out the very next game. That's what Rick Barnes wants to see. Wasn't pleased with the way they played against Kansas, getting off track offensively. And really lost that game at the free throw line.
KU was a perfect 10 for 10 in that extra session. Schofield did the bulk of the damage for Tennessee, and you mentioned it in our open. Rick Barnes saying we were too emotional in that game, and referring especially to some of those late possessions where Grant Williams was unable to beat Grant Williams.
But when you play a team of comparable talent, like playing Kansas, they're going to take away some things. So do you settle or do you work harder to get what you want?
First basket for Mayo makes it an 11-8 contest. And another turnover. Brown off to the races.
Oh, my
Swatted by Williams. I thought that he maybe was getting the ball as it was coming down, but a nice defensive play.
Who says Grant Williams cannot get on his trampoline? I think that's a pretty good block.
Seven minutes in, falls by 3. Open look for Mayo, that's his spot, and he connects. Mayo now with 5. He averages 25 per game this season.
He is the definition of a stretch 5-man.
Williams back to work, too easy from point-blank range. And a chance for 3 the hard way.
That's almost the Williams zone. Getting both feet in the paint. Watch him set the screen and then plant the defender. See how low he is? He plants King on his back. Then King compounds the problem by fouling.
Falls by 2, make it 3. Williams this season at the stripe, 73%.
You know what kind of player Grant Williams is? At the end of the game, if you're the opposing coach, you're going to go, I thought we did a pretty good job on Williams, and you're going to look and he had 25 and 8.
You don't want to suggest he goes about his business in a quiet fashion, but I think I follow what you're saying. He's going to stuff the stat sheet one way or another. Foul here against the Colonels.
Somebody blew a tire.
So Trey King picks up his second.
You know, it's hard enough to defend with 2 shoes.
King lost the sneaker in the process. How does the shoe come off? You got to figure you're tying them up pretty tight there with the high tops, right?
Now I see more and more players using the low tops. His look to be about that mid-high range, don't they?
There's the jam! Kyle Alexander climbed the ladder, and just like that, the easy bucket.
You could see that developing because Alexander started in the corner and got a running jump.
Markey's been playing really well lately, averaging 11 points per game, too strong off the glass. Pons claims the rebound, and here comes UT. Tennessee, co-SEC champions last year of the regular season. Finished with 13 and 5 on the slate, and Bowden connects from distance.
Better 3-point shot. Why? Inside out approach offensively. But I got to tell you, Roy, if you want a good out-under play, screen for your big guy. Kyle Alexander, one hand. That is a monster clutch.
Tennessee in the midst of an 8-0 run in the last 64 seconds. 19-11 our score back in Knoxville. So we take a look now at our Good Hands play presented by Allstate, and give some love to Kyle Alexander.
Keep your eye on the furthest player to the right for Tennessee, Alexander, as he comes in and receives a screen. The pass by Turner is on point. And as a result, Alexander, one-handed schwackums.
That is beautiful.
That's fun stuff. You don't get that a lot. He's looking up at the big screen. He wants to see it again.
Well, the pass was on point too from Lamonte Turner, and he was another player identified by Rick Barnes to us earlier today. We expect more from number 1. He's got to play better, and he will. Balls offensively have been crisp the last 5 minutes. 7 made buckets, 7 assists So you love to see that or hear that if you're a coach. Pons, 4-3. Came into this game 0 for 4 from downtown. He's a perfect 2 for 2 in his first career start.
You want to stay in the lineup? Knock down some 3 balls.
Aaron pass. Over and back. And don't forget, coming up next, as soon as we're done here at Knoxville, Monmouth soars into Rupp Arena in Lexington, Kentucky to tangle with the 10th-ranked Kentucky Wildcats. 8:30 tip tonight here on the SEC Network and, of course, on the ESPN app, so you can watch it anywhere.
I had Kentucky last week, and they are going through the process of trying to get better before their schedule picks back up. Cal has admitted that he had to go backwards a little bit in what they were teaching in practice.
Ball's doubling up EKU. I watched some of that game. You're at home in Kentucky. I mean, you were all over the place. You were at the tracks in the broadcast.
We had fun.
You were doing a little tasting, perhaps, in the broadcast. Very impressive stuff.
Cats are giving up too many threes on a nightly basis.
Well, the team that we see now is not the team that we're going to see in March. Turn around, Alexander, silky smooth.
I don't think Alexander made that move with that kind of confidence a year ago.
13-0 run for Tennessee. And that'll stop the bleeding for a moment. Lachlan Anderson from distance.
Really difficult as a defender to show on the ball screen and get back to the pick and pop.
Halfway through our first half here in Knoxville. Vols coming off their lone loss of the season, an overtime setback against Kansas. You can see the potential with Alexander. You know what you're going to get with Schofield. That one from the wing for 3.
Schofield 40% from the arc a year ago. More than capable.
Tennessee 4 of 9 from downtown. Weaver can't answer. Quick outlet pass, and Bone hit the deck hard.
Eastern Kentucky runs this pick and pop because they have so many shooters. Williams gets too deep defensively. It is too late on the closeout. Anderson makes him pay. Anderson's been struggling with his 3-ball shooting. Just 4 for 13, that's 31%. Coming into the game, he's capable of much better.
Do you like the response of Tennessee so far after that loss to Kansas?
Yeah, I think you can see that they are trying to play cerebrally with that inside-out approach that Rick Barnes loves.
Bone attacking with the bounce. Nicely done. Bone with 4. 29-14 our score, and UT in control.
All great guards know to play at different speeds. Watch Bone with the hesitation and then the blow by for the easy finish off the window. I also like the way he looked that ball in. So many times guards, as they get in amongst the trees, they tend to duck their head. If you're going to absorb contact or finish in traffic, you must keep your eyes on the prize.
Eastern Kentucky, nice cold 5 of 16 from the floor.
And better rotation out on Mayo that time.
Good pass from big number 10. Spun out of bounds right through the hands of Anderson. 7 turnovers for the Colonels here in the early going.
Well, that's been a problem of this season. But A.W. Hamilton talked to us today that if you're going to play this system, you almost have to be willing to live with a certain amount of miscues.
Nine on the shot clock. Schofield baseline to spin and was stripped. And here comes Weaver. Mayo, open pass. Rejected at the rim by Pons. Wow. You look at the physique of 35 in white. Yves Pons' first career start, and this is what they love about what he brings to the table, Mark.
The definition of being a rim protector. Took on the big fella, Nick Mayo, head on. I like the way Pons stayed vertical with the block. That is big time stuff. That is next level stuff.
Is nasty. Bone at the stripe. Tennessee already in the bonus, 12 minutes in. Deep triple. Weaver off the back of the iron. Tennessee in attack mode.
I like the way Bone kind of probed the defense in transition. Now set up and run your stuff.
Ball's dominating so far on the glass. They've turned it over a couple of times so far.
Walker saw there. Just kind of threw that blindly.
In and out for Mayo. Eastern Kentucky now 3 of 10 from behind the three-point arc. Kelvin Robinson wearing 22 tonight for Eastern Kentucky, normally number 4. And a jersey malfunction, making the trip here to Knoxville as Turner gets tripped up and will shoot 2 when we come back. 29-14, Vols in control early. Vols are shooting 50% from the floor, leading Eastern Kentucky 29-14. Mark Wise, Roy Philpott here in Knoxville. Rick Barnes with some last-minute instructions for the troops. Dominant on the glass so far.
That was a big concern for Eastern Kentucky. Tennessee dominating on the glass. As a result, Vols on a run.
Good crowd as assembled here inside Thompson Bowling Arena. Vols coming in at 4-1 and projected to be one of the top teams not only in the SEC but in the nation this year. Turner.
Got a towel? Somebody back here anywhere?
He rejected the free throw.
He rejected it, didn't he? Is there something wrong with the ball? Yeah, they want to wipe it down a little bit. Well, you don't see that every day.
Not at all.
2 shots, man.
He said, I didn't like this one.
Turner 67% at the line this year. Big week in the SEC. Don't forget Saturday, 1 o'clock Eastern. SEC Nation with Laura Marcus, Paul and company will be in the ATL for the SEC Championship game. Number 1, Alabama. Number 4, Georgia. They'll break it down, everything from gridiron to grill. SEC Nation presented by Dr. Pepper right here on the SEC Network. And, of course, on the ESPN app.
Who you got?
Bama.
Easily?
They are good, really good. And Tua Tagovailoa is going to win the Heisman. And Lamonte Turner is going to drain along too. Yeah, if you haven't been paying attention, Bama this year historically good. And now you know that Georgia's going to come in prepared with Kirby Smart. It's going to be interesting that Nick Saban's never lost to one of his former assistant coaches. I would be shocked if that trend changes Saturday.
You know who else is trying to be historically good? Tennessee basketball. I did not realize they have never won back-to-back SEC titles.
Hard to do as Robinson connects. At the glass, another strong finish for Bone. So the action picking up here. Rejected. That was Bowden.
I hope you like your action 94 feet.
We do. Approaching 6 to play in our first half. It is starting to move quickly. Turner, top of the key. Mayo clears.
See, not every three-point shot is a good look.
Bryant. And tapped out, it'll stay with the Colonels. Oh, back and forth we go. We like it like this.
Bone with the drive and the finish off the window. And in response, Eastern Kentucky. But the rejection by Bowden.
So when a player like Jordan Bowden comes off the bench for the first time in his season, what is he thinking? Because obviously you're a little concerned Pons may take my spot. You want to develop great team chemistry, especially this time of year. He's got some work to do to regain that spot in the starting five as Mayo connects. That can be difficult, right?
Here's what every player needs to understand. There is no such thing as a bad minute. If your coach needs you to come off the bench, then come off the bench with conviction and be ready to be productive. If you're a starter like Pons was tonight, don't you think he was excited and wanted to produce?
I do.
And he did, and he has.
Yeah. Pons made his first 2 3-point attempts this evening, his first 2 of the season.
We had fun with Rick Barnes today at shoot-around, did we not?
Rick Barnes is one of the best storytellers in this conference, and I hope one day we do the 30 for 30 or we really go deep inside his coaching career. From his days at Clemson, the late great Dean Smith and some of their feuds, going back to Providence, a lot of great stories there, of course, in Texas, and some of the incredible recruiting they did there. But he has a story basically on just about every assistant coach, every head coach in this conference, in the ACC, across the country. And when you get him going, it's just a fountain of information. It's great.
And he was getting calls today from football guys.
He was. He's well connected. Schofield draws the double team. Pons thought about it, then lost the handle. Well, the foul called against the Colonels. Free throws coming up for 35 and White. I mean, he's been everywhere. 32nd season as a head coach. And got a chance to lead Tennessee to the Sweet 16 if he does that. One of just a handful of coaches to take a handful of teams that deep in the tournament. Did it at Clemson, obviously at Texas.
He's been to 23 NCAA tournaments. That stands the test of time.
Yeah.
Pons really struggles at the free throw line. Now 1 for 7 on the year.
Step out. He did.
Well, this is the new wave of driving to the rim, finding teammates at the arc, flying out of bounds.
That's one of the things that scares me at times with what we've seen at the next level with a team like Golden State. Behind the back passes, falling out of bounds, flailing passes across the court. Nice pass there as the diamonds drop perfectly to Grant Williams. And you see a lot of younger players try to emulate those skills, and that's not easy to do, nor is it necessarily always warranted. Pops off the bounce, nearly turned it over. Weaver launches and connects.
And he's the one guy that A.W. Hamilton says we need more from. We need more scoring from Tate Weaver.
Bone attacking, just short. Sweet move by Brown. Rejected almost at the rim and somehow gets it to go. He'll have a chance for 3.
Love the way Brown hangs and changes at the last second to the left hand to avoid the hard charging Bowden. Watch this right at the end. That switch to the left hand to avoid the block. That is really neat stuff.
Eastern Kentucky does have some nice firepower, trailed by double digits in the second half against Chattanooga on the road, came back and won. And with their tempo, they get more possessions. Finally controlled by Bowden, 2-on-1. Off the Pons! Rejected by Williams. Look out. And A.W. Hamilton has seen enough. Tennessee flexing its muscle, leading by 17.
All of a sudden, it's become a dunk fest. Bowden to Pons, high fly.
Tennessee by 17, less than 4 to play here in our first half. Yves Pons, first career start tonight, and he has been electric. 8 points, a new career high. He scored only 17 a year ago, Mark Wise, and they love his athleticism. We love the physique. Numbers tell the story.
Rick Barnes has rewarded Pons with a start. Pons has rewarded Rick Barnes with an outstanding performance. How about knocking down not one, but 2 from bonus land, his first 2 of the year. Oh, yeah, a little rim protection on the defensive end. And then on the break, the high fly. Yves Pons, sophomore from France.
You wonder.
You play like that, you don't need to speak good English.
Well, you wonder, too, has he cemented himself into the starting 5 for UT with what he's done. Now the crowd to its feet moments ago. Back and forth action. And it's been mostly Tennessee imposing its will against the Colonels out of the OVC. Mark Wise, Roy Philpott back in Knoxville out of the timeout.
Boy, we're seeing another part of the versatility of Grant Williams. He's the 5-man in this lineup.
Mayo blocked again. And he'll shoot a pair.
This is where Nick Mayo cannot get frustrated. He's gotten some pretty good looks.
Grant Williams picks up his first personal. Mayo, 93% at the line this year, and if there's an automatic in college basketball, it's Nick Mayo at the stripe.
His career numbers are just silly. 53% from the field, 43% from the arc, 82% at the line. That's why we say he can score at all 3 levels.
Trapping pressure. Lead dwindles to 15.
Hard to press Bone, isn't it?
Good looking player. He knows how to direct traffic with his experience. Nashville native. Now in his junior season. Older brother Josh played college basketball. We'll whip it around the horn here. Williams. It's one of the shots you said that he needs to show more of. He's now 4 of 10 from downtown this year.
A year ago, he was 3 for 25 from the arc. But if he wants to play at the next level, he's going to have to show that he can do that.
Schofield wanted the alley-oop. Bone couldn't pull the trigger.
Here's this off the paint post up.
Bowden short. Schofield, the putback was fouled from behind. That'll go against Kelvin Robinson. Well, Thursday, 11 o'clock. Marty and McGee have you covered with everything that's SEC. You can never get enough of the M&M boys. Like everything else, you can see it live on the ESPN app as well, anywhere you may be. It is a great week with all the college basketball games in the conference. With the SEC championship game in Atlanta on Saturday. With the playoff implications surrounding that matchup between Alabama and Georgia. Get a little taste of fall and winter, shall we say, Professor Wise.
Colder weather means one thing to me.
Hoops.
Hoops, baby.
Schofield 1 of 2 at the stripe. Less than 3 to play in our first half. And the score tells the story. Tennessee in bounce back mode after its loss in overtime against Kansas. Hobbs connects. Now playing in his 3rd game of his sophomore season out of Louisville, Kentucky. Bone, no look dish. Patient finish at the rack by Schofield.
The senior, isn't he? The way he plays with such maturity, doesn't rush. And Tennessee has started switching.
Hobbs feeling it. Side rim. Pons the rebound. Yves Pons 8 points, 4 boards in his first start.
How about that pass from Williams?
And a rare miss for 35 in white. He scored 17 points all of last year, 15 all of this season coming into this game. And he's got 8 points tonight. You love stories like that. Williams triple teamed and a foul from behind.
When Tennessee switches this screen, Grant Williams ends up having to guard Hobbs. Hobbs measures, To his left, good finish. That's a tough ask for a guy like Grant Williams, or any big, if you're going to switch 1 through 5, which Tennessee does in this particular lineup.
Leading scorer in the SEC is Williams, now with 8 points tonight, and very close to averaging a double-double, 8.4 boards per contest. Good enough for 4th in the league. A lot of numbers, but when you talk about Williams, you kind of have to mention it. He's so productive.
Well, he fouled out at the end of regulation in that Kansas game, so they played that overtime without their leading scorer.
It's one of those games, and Rick Barnes told us this, you know, we can learn a lot from what happened. And even talking to his staff, they were suggesting you hope that pays dividends later in the season. Well, that was almost a triple block at the rim.
Do you remember what he referenced? He said, we learned a lot last year when we played Villanova.
Yeah.
So he's hoping the same lessons can be learned.
I like it how you quiz me throughout the broadcast just to make sure I was on my toes. And I appreciate that. Foul goes against Schofield. That's what the professor does, right?
I always want to keep you with your A game coming.
Schofield says, no, that was all ball. Brown connects. One more coming. Quick seat on Rick Barnes' bench. One of 2 at the line. The rebound pops out to Jalen Johnson, who just checked in.
That's why you block out the shooter.
Contact, no whistle, sorry.
Seems like such a simple thing. I've got to shoot.
Double team for Williams. Tried to dump off. Brown in traffic. Gets it back, but he was out of bounds.
Brown can be explosive. The young freshman from Raleigh.
And Rick Barnes will utilize a timeout. His team leading by 17, $1:22 remaining here in our first half. Rick Barnes, 32nd season as a head coach.
He's not going to like this. But here is Rick Barnes through the years.
George Mason for a couple of seasons before making his way up to Providence. Successful run there. Took Greg Buckner with him from Providence to Clemson, where they reached the Sweet 16 in 1997. You know about what he did at Texas, all the great recruiting, bringing in Kevin Durant. Successful run in Austin. Kids still live there, and now here at Tennessee, year number 4. And his team picked 2nd in the conference this season by all of the experts.
I asked him what advice would today's Rick Barnes give the Rick Barnes of George Mason, his first year as a head coach, and he said, I would learn to surround myself with somebody outside of basketball who I trusted and listen to them.
That was a great question, and I think he really appreciated it. Williams comes up short. Fresh 30 for UT. Under a minute to go in the first half. Johnson, an open look, and splashes that one in.
Nice little left-handed stroke there.
Tennessee with its largest lead at 20.
I would say Eastern Kentucky should go 2 for 1, but I don't think that comes into play with the pace that they play.
3 minutes since the last Colonel's bucket. Brock outside to Brown. And Williams, another rebound. So a 1 second differential between game and shot clock. And Rick said too, you know what, you got to have thick skin. You can't really get into a lot of what the media has to say about you or what they're talking about on Sports Talk Radio, because I learned that at an early age. And maybe through a couple of trials and tribulations. You certainly get it as a young coach. You want to please everybody. Turner is short. And the rebound for Johnson. Draws the foul and has free throws coming up. So Peyton Broughton picks up the personal. The Vols in the double bonus, a chance to close this first half strong and reach 50 points in the process.
Another example of Grant Williams at the high post, kind of surveys. Everybody wants to catch it and put it on the deck instead of catching and evaluating. Grant Williams, excellent at that.
Derek Walker Jr. checking in as Williams goes to the bench. A productive first 20 minutes in the books, 9 points, 6 rebounds. The junior out of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Plenty of time to go coast to coast here.
Mayo. Little stop and pop, well short. That'll do it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that will really please Rick Barnes, the way his team has shared the basketball in the first 20 minutes. 18 made shots from 16 assists.
Vols have been impressive. 49-28, our halftime score, leading Eastern Kentucky. Grant Williams leading the charge, 9 points, 6 rebounds. After the break, we'll join Dari Noka in the studio. And the week continues back in Knoxville, Tennessee. Start of our second half. UT all over Eastern Kentucky. Mark Wise, Roy Philpott. And speaking of V-Week, certainly great to see our good friend Tom Satkowiak, SID, for the Tennessee men's basketball program, back on the floor doing what he does best after undergoing a liver transplant about 6 weeks ago, Mark, and he waited on the transplant list for more than 4 years. Rick Barnes flew up to be with his family during the surgery, which was an incredibly nice gesture. Surgery lasted over 11 hours, and we spoke with him today. I know you're a cancer survivor as well. He's been through a lot, and he still has a smile on his face.
Yeah, that waiting 4 years, I just can't fathom, and yet I know that happens. And he talked about the anguish of the waiting that he had to go through. And the fact that he's back here and he was in liver transplant surgery October 18th, that's incredible. That's the best story we're going to do tonight.
I would agree. Gave us a lot of the details behind the wait, some of the other patients that he saw as he recovered. And a fantastic story for Tom to be back doing what he does best. Three-pointer made for EKU to start our second half. That'll make it an 18-point contest.
That's one Mayo's got to gather, isn't it?
I would think so.
And that ball had a lot of air on it. Went right through his hands. Good to see Broughton, though, knock down that 3 ball, because he was firing blanks in the first 20.
Broughton scored 67 points in a game one time in high school, so he has the ability to go off at any point. Mayo with a bounce, nicely done in traffic.
How about Mayo doing a little Grant Williams impersonation?
Very good.
Watch the way the big fella finds teammates, attracts the defenders, kickouts on point. Broughton knocks down the 3 ball. Nick Mayo's going to get looked at. There's no doubt in my mind, seeing him in person for the first time.
He's going to leave Eastern Kentucky as the school's all-time leading scorer, provided he stays healthy this year. And his skill set, as you mentioned, he can score and attack at all 3 levels. And A.W. Hamilton told us earlier today, you know, we challenged him. This is his first year as a coach in Richmond, and we challenged Nick Mayo. You need to gain about 35 pounds. You need to become more physical. And he responded to said challenges. Bone off the back iron, and Mayo with the board.
Not only just to get bigger, but to get stronger.
Right. Good passing for the Colonels. Out of the break. 3-pointer too strong.
Let's see if Tennessee can establish something inside again. Inside out.
And that's important too. Out of the break, you want your team to get 3-point happy or something along those lines as Anderson picks up his second.
I always was a fan coming out of halftime. Make sure everybody touches the ball. Starting man-to-man so that you get the blood flowing again. And then make sure the ball gets inside.
Pons starts the second half just as he did in the first. Open look for Bone, rattles out. And Pons on the offensive glass, and Tennessee has been so dominant on the boards this evening. Now
Alexander back to work. Finally corrals the basketball. Back up and the finish. A chance for three for number 11 in white, the senior Kyle Alexander.
A little scrum underneath. Alexander wasn't pretty. He started this whole process by being a little wrong-footed, but he stays with it. Mayo with the cheap foul at the end.
Alexander at the stripe. We mentioned the Tennessee schedule this year. Already faced top 5 Kansas. We mentioned Gonzaga on December 9th out in Phoenix, Arizona. Zach's right now number 1 in the country. This would be the first time in UT history to play 2 top 5 teams before the start of the new year.
Remember, Gonzaga is doing this without Killian Tilly as well.
Well, they were impressive against Duke
Oh.
10 days ago. Williams claims the
Hachimura.
air ball. Workmanlike performance so far for the nation's number 6 program. Leading by 21. 10 to shoot. Williams, the spin. Free throws coming.
So strong, upper body. He sets a little flare screen and then goes down into inside position. But he presents himself so low. Look at how low he gets. And he's just able to take his arms and attract fouls and contact, get himself to the line.
11 points, 9 rebounds. So a board away from his 7th career double-double.
Remember, we talked about this in the first half, that Williams is one of those guys that's just not overly flashy. And at the end of the night, he's going to have 22 and 12.
Does he need to be flashier, shall we say, for Tennessee to win the league, to make it to the Final Four?
Well, those are two different things. I mean, Final Four, people don't understand how hard it is to win one game in the NCAA tournament, much less win 4 to get to the Final Four. They're gonna have a different journey this year than they had a year ago.
In what way?
In terms of going from being the hunter to the hunted. And so they're going to get everybody's best shot every night for 40 minutes, and the league, Roy, is as good as I can remember.
I totally would agree with that. Bounce pass to Mayo. The quick ups. Mayo with 13 to go along with 7 rebounds. Important game for number 10 for Eastern Kentucky. At his size, with his skill set, a chance to play the next level. Scope. Quick first step, paid dividends.
And part of that curling action that Tennessee likes to run. Admiral Schofield comes off action on the weak side. He senses a baseline drive is available, and he takes advantage. Falls on a roll.
Number 6 Tennessee all over Eastern Kentucky back in Knoxville, 58-35. With Mark Wise, Roy Philpott. You were talking about the strength of this conference, even going back to last year. Look at how many teams right now in the top 10, Mark.
3 in the top 10, which is impressive enough. Of course, Vanderbilt's going to have to move forward, losing their outstanding freshman guard Darius Garland out for the season. And if you want to go through this league, perhaps it goes through Auburn and their high-octane offense. The Tigers score at a high rate. They shoot threes at a high rate. They make threes at a high rate.
I'll just call that fun basketball, and that's what Bruce Pearl has down on the Plains right now. Grant Williams, rebound away from a double-double. Nick Mayo has already recorded his second double-double of the season.
I will say this, I think this team by Rick Barnes, and I said this last year in the league, this Tennessee team might be as comfortable as any team in the country at winning games in the 60s or winning games in the 80s.
Williams slow to get up in the paint after the jam by Nick Mayo. And that's not something you want to see if you're a fan of this great sport with any team. And Williams with a thumbs up. He's okay.
And a big sigh of relief here inside Thompson-Boling.
This place got quiet
It did.
in a hurry.
Full court pressure. The SEC coming off a season in which 8 teams made the NCAA tournament. It's a conference record, and I would venture to gather that that same number could be achieved this year. Bone inside. The wraparound and the pretty finish.
So quick, so explosive. And this is a dribble handoff offensive screen by Eastern Kentucky. Let's go back to Jordan Bone. I said this in the first half, that all great guards understand how to play at different speeds. And Bone sometimes can just get to an extra gear, which allows him that easy left-handed finish.
Is that something that is teachable, or is that something that you just kind of have to be born with, that secondary sense to speed up, slow down, depending on what's happening on the court?
I think that's teachable
Yeah.
because you see it on video. But the sense, the timing of when to go to that extra gear, I'm not sure you can teach that.
Two teams have combined to make their last 5.
Make it 6. Eve Pons again.
That was a call from the bench. All set up for Pons.
Eve Pons in double figures for the first time in his career, and it won't be the last. Timeout on the floor, all Tennessee here on Rocky Top.
Call from the bench. Pons delivers. Weak side up screen. Pons is there. Good ball reversal leads to so many good things. Keep your eye on 35 White, Eve Pons. He rotates the ball to the other side of the floor, gets an up screen off camera. The lob is on point, and Pons with a career high tonight.
10 points in his first career start. Schofield with 12, Williams with 13. 3 Tennessee Vols in double figures to lead this charge, and it has been impressive as expected. So 5 minutes into our second half, and Tennessee doing exactly what we thought.
One guy that I'm going to keep my eye on is Lamont Turner, who has been struggling. His coach has challenged him a little bit. He was the co-6th man of the year in the league a season ago, and yet he's in a shooting slump. 29% from beyond the arc coming into the game. First half, Turner was 0 for 5 from bonus land. So that's why even in a game like this with a spread like this, these are important moments for Lamont Turner and his confidence right now.
Hobbs nearly forced the steal, and in fact does. Here's Brown. Tennessee wanted the tie-up. Fulkerson will not get it. Free throws coming up.
We talked about how good it is for Eastern Kentucky to get Hobbs back on the floor tonight. Here he is, sprinting to get ahead of the offensive player. That is fundamental in the press. Always sprint to get ahead of the ball.
Brown 60% at the line. We'll get one more. Colonels come in at 3-3 with losses to Kansas State, Marshall, and a very good Northern Iowa club. Obviously tested here tonight. It's number 6 Tennessee. Turner off the glass, and an offensive foul, wave off the basket.
See, that's just forcing the issue. Turner caught the ball and immediately put the ball on the deck. Catch and evaluate. Catches it, he's already made up his mind. He wants to drive the defender. I don't care how you evaluate the block charge call, defensive arc, wherever it is. That's the hardest call for the official to make.
Turner was the SEC sixth man of the year a season ago. And to Mark's point, ice cold start this campaign. And a whistle baseline. It'll stay with Eastern Kentucky. Our veteran officiating crew, Patrick Evans, Owen Short, Garrick Shannon this evening. And Mark, they've been on point. A lot of times you talk to coaches this time of year, they suggest, you know, the officials need more exhibition games so they can knock the rust off. Haven't seen that tonight. Silky smooth mid-range jumper from Brown.
Brown coming off a really good game against Kennesaw State. 8 of 16 shooting, 2 of 4 from beyond the arc. 21 points, which was a career best for him. You see the way Schofield caught and evaluated and said, let's set back up.
I was waiting for you to jump in. With the finish. Admiral Schofield, another bucket, another foul, and a free throw coming up. Don't forget, this Saturday, the SEC Now team will be back at 7 p.m. to recap the SEC championship game between Bama and Georgia. Highlights, analysis, interviews, much more headed your way. No one covers the conference like we do, and we stream it live, of course, on the ESPN app as well. SEC Now.
Are you going to give me a score then?
Bama, Georgia?
Yes.
I mean, really nobody has slowed down Alabama's offense this year. I don't think Georgia does it, but I do think Georgia and Jake Fromm can have success against Alabama's defense. So I think it's higher scoring. I think Georgia's competitive into the third quarter, and then Alabama pulls away. So with all that in mind, let's go 42-27. Bama over UGA. That's where I am right now.
I'm
impressed. Analysis,
yeah,
you get analysis.
I love it.
Brown's off to a good start in this second half. Now in double figures with 10 after that last 3 ball. I think it's going to be a lot of fun in the ATL, and it always is. But when you've got playoff berth at stake, that certainly ups the ante. Phone comes up short. Here's Brown. Nice dump off. The flush by King.
Yeah, you get the sense right now, though, that Tennessee's taking the shots that Eastern Kentucky wants them to take.
Bowden an open look. Fulkerson the offensive rebound. And here's a steal. Brown, 2 on 3. And a clean swipe from behind. It'll stay with the Colonels.
Nice play by Fulkerson. Coming from behind. The redshirt sophomore, even at 6'9", chases this play down. This is why you don't give up defensively. Look at the effort by Fulkerson to get back in and disrupt the finish.
I mean, he's wearing a face mask, for crying out loud. He broke his nose against Georgia Tech earlier this month. You got to love that. You love the hustle, the heart. You want to talk about making a title run in this league nationally? You got to have glue guys like that, players like that.
Role guys.
Right.
Who thrive in their role.
Brown. And Turner the rebound.
Better challenge defensively that time, Schofield.
Play the 2-man game, Schofield.
Not fair.
Pump fake.
That's not fair. Schofield and Williams on the same side of the floor. Not fair.
Schofield, the team high 18, and Markey 7 of 8 from the floor. Talk about efficiency. .16 to shoot for Eastern Kentucky. So I'll ask you this as well. We've talked all about the possibilities, what you like or love about this Tennessee team right now. If there's a component that you see that you feel like this has to get better for X to happen, as Mayo can't connect, what would that be? Where do they need to improve?
Maybe a little offensive punch off the bench. I mean, this is a team that doesn't have a lot of flaws.
Well, when you got Schofield and Williams and they're playing a 2-man game like this,
Watch the patience by both, though. The entry, the pass back out, the spot up. That's just good stuff. That's inside out.
3 balls in double figures, led by Schofield's 18. Williams will add 1 more to that total. He's got 5 assists tonight as well. You've commented about his vision and his passing.
He had 6 assists against Kansas. Now, he did turn the ball over a few times, especially late.
Hobbs thinking about it. Will feed King. He turns it over. Quickly ahead to Bone. Attacking and finishing. Bone in double figures now with 10. And the backdoor cut is incomplete and out of bounds. Tennessee 72-47. Less than 12 to play here in Knoxville.
Grant Williams, let's go on a fast break. Favorite emoji?
Definitely the winking emoji.
Your new locker room is?
Out of this world, no doubt. No one can touch it.
Coach Barnes' favorite line?
What are you doing? Just go a minute.
72-47, Tennessee leading Eastern Kentucky. Mark Wise, Roy Philpott. What are you doing? Sounded like you had shoot around earlier today. Well, Grant Williams not only accomplishing great things on the floor, away from the basketball court. He visited Ecuador this past summer, giving back not only here in the Knoxville community, but globally. And just a really cool dude to hang out with, no matter where you are, Mark.
Well, he's one of those guys that's just grounded and took advantage of this program and gave to others. And I think that's so important in this day and age of today's athlete. And it was also interesting to find out that Derek Walker is in the same ball leader program right now, this year. You can't tell me that stuff doesn't rub off.
It does. And it makes a difference not only in the community, but I think it also helps build team chemistry. And as a leader, other players respond to your efforts. And that's what we've seen from Grant Williams in his career here. Turner directing traffic. Draws the foul and he throws his arms up. And really, Lamonte Turner, the one guy that needs to get going.
Frustrated right now. Rick Barnes up talking to him.
What do you tell a player that's struggling without getting too much into his head, too deep into his head?
You have to know that player's personality.
Yeah.
There's no right answer for every player.
Turner with 4, just 1 of 6 from the floor, 2 of 3 at the stripe. Vols midst of a 9-0 run in the last 66 seconds. Don't forget Kentucky and Monmouth. Be headed your way here on the SEC Network as soon as we're done in Knoxville. Game scheduled to tip at 8:30 Eastern. I do like the early tip tonight, 6:30. It was a later arriving crowd, so I get that may not be super convenient. But for your trusted broadcasting team, it doesn't hurt my feelings. Turner. Outside, Alexander. 7 on the shot clock. Here's Williams, elbow jumper. And back to Tennessee. Well, everybody in the country talking about big Zion Williamson up at Duke. The numbers impressive for a first-year guy, but hey, what about Grant Williams? SEC Player of the Year. He's got a chance to go back-to-back.
Tell you what, Zion Williamson attacks the basket. I am not taking the charge.
LSU offered him as a tight end in high school. The play down on the Bayou in football.
That last shot illustrated Turner and his struggles right now.
We were told beforehand Zion Williamson, if he was in the NBA right now, would be the second heaviest player in the league at 285 pounds. I was a little surprised by that.
I think he has a little Sharkley in him. He's got a little Shaq and a little Barkley. I'm calling him Sharkley.
He's not as tall as, yes, the first player, right?
He's a mix.
He's a mix. I like that. I mentioned it back in the first half. The last player to win the SEC Player of the Year in back-to-back seasons, the great Corliss Williamson, who won a national championship at Arkansas in the mid-1990s. And Williams can do that if he claims that honor again this year. I'll be really curious to see as we get into conference play in January, Mark, exactly what Yves Pons is capable of, because we're getting a small glimpse of it tonight. We know what Grant Williams can do. This guy at the stripe with a career-high 10 this evening.
He looks like he could play.
I mean, he does.
Defensive end.
And he's been on this bench for the better part of his sophomore season.
Free throw issues, though. You want to be in close games at the end. You've got to be able to make your free throws.
6 at the line this year is Pons. Baseline triple off the mark. Williams the board. And his second double-double this season, the 7th of his career. Schofield attacking. Yes, sir. I mean, Schofield and Williams so similar too, and just how easy they make it look at times. Always under control. And Brown will draw the contact on the attempt from downtown.
When we go back and take a look at this play, look at Schofield. He's behind the ball all the way to the right of your screen. Watch as the way he gets himself into a scoring position. Bone finds him. The defense doesn't rotate. The easy flush. But that's an effort play. We usually talk about effort plays on defense. It was an effort play on offense.
Schofield, 20 points, 4 rebounds. 8 of 9 from the floor. I love the efficiency. Certainly a big fan of the offensive effort as Brown misses. I like the efficiency of 8 of 9, 2 of 3 at the line.
Schofield's career high is 25. He's done it twice. I'm going out on a limb right now. He sets a new career high here tonight.
What a big risk that was in saying. I got to give you props.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah. He's got 9.5 minutes to do it.
Now I want him to shoot all the time.
Williams with the spin of the bounce.
We talk about guard skills in a power forward body. That's exactly what Grant Williams put on display. Face the basket, catch, evaluate, spin move, left-handed finish, and one.
Here we go, Pat.
(78-51), make it 79-51. Halfway through our second half, Mark Wise, Roy Philpott in Knoxville, Tennessee. You're going to make the trek back here, Rocky Top, for their next game as the baseline triple is good by Tay Weaver.
Now Islanders come to town. Texas A&M Corpus Christi.
Out of the Southland Conference.
See, Grant Williams sets a good screen even when it's the excuse me variety.
Bo lost the defender. Williams clears, puts it back up and in. 20 points, 11 rebounds for Grant Williams.
Just understands the game at a different level. Offensive rebounding is a lot of effort and understanding where the ball might go. Weak side glass. Is he the best that you've seen with the and one opportunities? Because he's so strong through his shoulders.
6'7", 240 pounds. Grant Williams. Broughton, hand in his face. Well, Schofield got out there in a hurry.
That's a great point, because here's a senior in a game that has almost a 30-point spread, and Schofield's challenge on that three-point shot was relentless. Like they were playing Kentucky in overtime here in Knoxville.
Which they may be later
Which they
this year.
could be. They'll see the Cats twice this year. In the SEC, you play 5 teams twice.
Spin, Mayo. Alexander got the ball cleanly. There was contact with the lower body. Well, coming up Friday, 10 o'clock, it's a special edition of Thinking Out Loud with Greg McElroy, Marcus Spears from the SEC Championship game in the ATL. They'll talk about the matchup. They also want your participation via social media throughout the show, also streaming live on the ESPN app. That's 10 o'clock Eastern. Thinking Out Loud this coming Friday night. You love the social media interaction, don't you, Professor?
Yeah, sure.
You're big on Twitter. I've seen the posts for the hoop junkies out there. Great follow.
Mondays and Fridays.
Here we go, Joe.
Does that continue in the offseason as well?
No, we go to Wednesdays in the offseason.
Oh, okay. So you go the 2-for-1 deal.
Exactly. Monday look back, Friday look ahead.
I love it.
See, I like that by Turner, but now stop dribbling. Took it a dribble too far.
Alexander, bounce pass, picked off by Mayo.
That was a near turnover on all 3 guys.
And Brown lost the handle. Now Tennessee playing its 500th all-time game here inside Thompson Bowling Arena tonight. They have been dominant in this facility as Williams gets a nice round of applause and also an earful from Rick Barnes.
But did you see Williams kind of tap him on the back like,
Coach, it's
I
all right."
got you.
What are you doing? What are you doing? That was the invitation he gave us a little while ago.
See how much cleaner that was for Turner by giving the ball up sooner?
So in your mind, he's trying to do perhaps a little too much. Does it effectively there.
He can be explosive, but that opportunity came after ball reversal, and that explosion came out of the framework of the offense.
Under 8 media timeout, it is all UT here in Knoxville. 84-56. Falls by 28. Back in Knoxville, Mark Wise, Roy Philpott. Scoreboard tells the story. Some big games coming up this week in the conference, and maybe some flying under the national radar, but certainly noteworthy.
UCF went to Alabama and won last year, so
Did they?
the Tide is trying to flip that script. Mississippi State versus Dayton. Mississippi State's got to shoot the 3-ball better. Vanderbilt's finding their way without Garland, and then Missouri, with that same UCF team, has them at home. Missouri lost a tough game last night to Temple. 2-point game. Fran Dunphy in his last year at
Fran,
Temple.
good guy. Bounce pass, Mayo, right between the wickets.
But see, that's a next level pass. That doesn't finish for Eastern Kentucky, but that pass by Mayo is on point.
Watching it tonight, I know you've been impressed at times as you see the AP top 10. 3 teams from the SEC leading the charge there. Is Mayo a potential NBA guy, overseas guy? Do we know yet?
I don't think we know yet. I know he'll get looked at. He's going to get an opportunity.
Bowden rolls it in.
Again, Roy, why is that a better shot off the bounce? Because it came out of the flow of the offense. It was not a guy creating his own look.
Tay Weaver. Pons will try to chase it down. Anderson corrals it. You mentioned to me earlier, too, and I want to ask you this. Pop out to Turner and a foul inside. Kentucky and Monmouth head your way at the bottom of the hour, live from Lexington. Right here on the SEC Network and, of course, on the ESPN app. Wildcats 10th in the country, led by the great John Calipari. As you talked about what Rick Barnes wants to accomplish tonight, and we talked with Coach extensively today, you said, hey, his system, it's not really something that's easy to understand if you're not used to it. He runs some complex offensive sets. And so as you start a season, you kind of refresh yourself with what he wants to accomplish. Try to shake the rust off there mentally, shall we say. So the team you see now for Tennessee along those lines could be even more advanced come March.
But he's also not afraid to experiment at this time of the year, because Pons goes to the starting lineup tonight. I think that's a reward for Pons, but he's also sending a message down the bench that if you don't bring your best, if you don't bring your A game, then you're not going to start.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that, you've got 8, 9, 10 guys in the rotation. Not everybody can start. There's important roles to be played off the bench.
10-5 tonight for Yves Pons in his first start. And the free throw for Mayo.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're going to see Schofield again tonight. That career high could be in jeopardy.
You walk out on the limb and you pay the price dearly. Try to tell you.
You know what else I've been impressed by Mayo? He hasn't forced it. How many shots would you say he's forced tonight? Not many. No,
yeah.
he's been very mature in how he goes about his game. Well, there's that different speed again.
Mayo with 14 here in the second half. He's got 23 overall. Important to note this, he's perfect at the line, 10 for 10, and he came into tonight at 93% from the stripe. So if you foul Mayo, he's going to make the pay. So after the layup by Bone, Tennessee now with another basket can tie its season high of 92.
Pressing to the end, though. I love it. Commit to your system.
I think maybe the safer walk on the limb would have been Tennessee reaching triple digits, as opposed to Schofield with a new career high.
Hobbs back in the lineup, which is good news for Eastern Kentucky. Watch this drive, and he gives just enough of a shot fake as he attacks the bigs right there. Team head bob just a little bit. That got the defenders to bite on the fake. He was able to finish.
30-point lead for the Vols. They have led basically from the get-go. As Bone,
there's that effort guy again.
Hit a photographer crashing out of bounds. Appears to be okay. Effort's been there all night by every player we've seen on the floor for UT. And make no mistake about that.
Well, this little two-game homestand that they have between major feature attractions, coming off Kansas, looking at Gonzaga next week. This game is almost a look behind you game, like can you get the tough loss out of you? Now Sunday's challenge will be different. It will be, can you stay focused on the moment and not look ahead?
Now Gonzaga looming, the nation's #1 team, fresh off an impressive win against Duke. We're going to find out exactly how good this Tennessee team is early against the Zags. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, can you get us a couple of tickets to that, please?
I cannot, but it's going to be interesting to see.
How about, speaking of difficult, look at this current schedule that the Zags are on. At Creighton, difficult place to play. Washington at home. Then Tennessee and Phoenix. And, oh, yeah, back to Tobacco Road.
And Rick Barnes has always done that. He wants to test his team. Turner. Still Cole. Approaching 4 to play. It will be an impressive, almost wire-to-wire Tennessee victory. Off the bounce is Houston King, and Turner grabs it.
Remember, Turner's a guy that last year was 40% from bonus land.
Vols will improve to 5-1 after this victory. 3 to shoot. And Bone watches that one sail out of bounds. Lead is 30. 3:47 to go here on Rocky Top. .30 lead for Tennessee. Mark Weiss, Roy Philpott here inside Thompson Bowling Arena. Grant Williams, Nick Mayo are 2 stars. As you would expect, in Nick's numbers, the bulk of those came in the second half, but still, a good night.
Free throw shooting, though, 19 for 19, and specifically Mayo. On the year now, Nick Mayo at the line is 52 for 55. If big guys could learn to knock down their free ones, man, those scoring averages would go up 3 or 4 points, and that's a big deal.
I did minor in mathematical sciences. That computes to 95% at the stripe when you round up. Officially 94.5 for those scoring at home. And we know that you are.
And Mayo is done for the night as well.
Eastern Kentucky basketball. What do you make of the Colonels? First season under A.W. Hamilton. He was great talking with us today, and he admitted his team has bought into his system. He told us we're going to work harder. We're going to run more than any other team in the land. And you can see bits and pieces of that here tonight. And he's got some pieces to work with in the OVC this year.
I think they could surprise some people. I mean, I know Belmont and Murray State are picked 1 and 2. Rick Bird's team at Belmont, I think, has been picked #1 in the league for the last 29 years, I think it seems like, doesn't it? I know Belmont's on the road tomorrow night at Sanford. They're on a road swing. But Murray's always dangerous. You did the tournament last year. I just think when you have a guy as good as Nick Mayo playing a different system that A.W. Hamilton wants to get his team to play, you learn to score in bunches. Upsets can happen.
Yeah. I think to your point, teams like Belmont always have great three-point shooters. Murray State, always great athletes. They can defend, they have length. I think this team falls somewhere in between those two clubs, and it's going to be a work in progress. They'll have some moments, good and bad, as you would expect. The first-year coach implementing his brand new system.
When you play this system, you're kind of rolling the dice a little bit. What do I mean by that? When you play this system, you'll probably win a couple of games you shouldn't.
Exactly.
Because you'll make a lot of threes.
Yeah.
But then there'll also be a night where you're going to get beat by 30.
Desperation heat by Turner is short Fulkerson there.
There's that effort guy again.
You got to be an effort guy if you're wearing the face mask. I mean, that's just by default. That's basketball 101.
You don't get to wear the mask if you're lazy? Is that
Correct.
what you're saying?
Yes. And when you break your nose against Georgia Tech, you're not lazy.
He finished the game. He came back in and played. You know
would,
what?
I would do that.
A trainer.
You'd have been in the hospital.
For a week.
Yeah. If you're just tuning in, it's been all Tennessee, obviously, by the score. Did have a couple of ties, 2 lead changes in our first 5 minutes since then the Vols pulled away. Grant Williams, a double-double. The defense has been rock solid. Admiral Schofield with 20 and 4 tonight as well.
Let's watch if Tennessee's players can catch and evaluate. Everybody wants to immediately put it on the deck.
Fulkerson gets it back and puts it in. First basket for number 10. Go along with 7 rebounds, Mr. Hustle. And Brown in rhythm.
Got a little offensive game to him, doesn't he?
Co-OVC freshman of the week coming in. 14 points tonight, Mark.
The shot by Turner just looks bad coming off his hand right now. You know, most shooters, Roy, go through a phase when they go from high school to college. And even later on, as you see some of the guys that don't get to play a lot come in. But when you come into college, you're basically an arrogant shooter because you think every shot's a good shot. Then you become a hesitant shooter through coaching, scouting report. You have to learn what's a good shot, what isn't. And then you have become a confident shooter when you understand that instinctively your shots come from the framework of the offense. And that evolution, man, that's a process.
4 walk-ons checking in the game for the first time for Tennessee. Jacob Fleshman, Brad Woodson, Zach Kent.
Well, you know what my theory is about walk-ons that get to play. There's no such thing as a good assist. Get your shot up.
There's Brock Jancic.
Oh, you can't pass up that look.
Fleshman thinking about it. Jancic's father's defensive play caller at Colorado State. He's smiling. Fleshman back on it. Less than a minute to go here in Knoxville.
See, what I like is everybody on the Tennessee bench was up.
And Oakley, the bulldozing move called for the offensive foul.
Yeah,
Brad Woodson is on the wrong end of that collision.
That gets everybody up. You know what Woodson's thinking? Man, I take the charge against Williams and Schofield. This is nothing.
It's a fundamentally sound-looking crew off the bench right now for Tennessee. Ten on the shot clock. And Brown with a steal. Woodson gets it back. Oh, he's stuffing the stat sheet. And the shot clock is off.
Gotta let it fly. Attack.
Fleshman. What? .95 on the scoreboard for Tennessee, tying their season high. And the Vols go out tonight as a big winner. 95-67, our final score as UT improves to 5-1 and Eastern Kentucky falls to 3-4.
A lot more balance in the Tennessee attack tonight between 3-point shots, 2-point shots, free throw attempts.
Final score tonight, 95-67 for Mark Wise and our entire crew. I'm Roy Philpott saying good night from Knoxville, Tennessee. Basketball continues next with Monmouth and Kentucky.